Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I'm going to get into the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks prediction video here. I just made the Thunder video. It was like almost an hour long. So I'll try to make this one a little shorter maybe. We'll see. It ain't as much to go over because, to be honest with you, the regular season series didn't tell us much. The Knicks did win it 2-1. They only played 3 times. But the first game was on 10-25, which was literally like the third game of the season. And then the next game was like 11-10, which was like the 11th game of the season. So we know the Pacers started off the season slow this year and have since turned themselves to a really elite basketball team. So they played the Knicks early, and that data doesn't tell us much. And then even then, when they played them the third time, 3 days before Valentine's Day, that was still early in comparison to what we've seen them turn into to a degree. So with the history that these two teams have historically, you would say, oh, these teams know each other. With how they've faced each other this season, you would say, nah, they don't really know one another. Organizations do, but the rosters not really that familiar based on this season's output. So kind of going over those numbers are a little iffy. Matchups iffy. I mean, you're talking about players that got minutes for the Pacers that may not even be in rotation right now for the first game. You know, the first game was 123-98. The Pacers shot 3 of 30 from behind the arc for 10%. I mean, if that was any indication of what we're going to see here, this ain't going to be a very long series, but why would that be any indication? Like, I don't think the Pacers have proven themselves to be that at all in these playoffs. So I just think that game was somewhat of a wash, to be honest with you. Like I said, third game of the season. I mean, nobody knew each other at all. And then, of course, the second matchup later on down the road in 11-10, the Pacers got the victory there, 132-121 in Indiana. And the Pacers shot pretty well from the 3 in this one, 21-46 for 45%. Knicks shot 28%, 7 to 25. Both teams got to the line a million times. 21 to 25 for the Pacers, 22 to 27 for the Knicks. Knicks won the boards. The Knicks doubled their points in the paint, damn near 64 to 38. So, and still lost the game. So it's just, that was kind of an asterisk game as well when you consider the Pacers shot 21 more threes than the Knicks. Made 21 threes to the Knicks 7. So it's like, the 3-point line kind of told the story in both of those games in very drastically opposite ways. The record for both teams was 5-5 in that game. Knicks 4-5, the Pacers 5-5. It's like, this is too early in the season to really ask that it determine what you think likely will happen. Those games just didn't really tell us much of anything. In the final matchup, the Pacers lost the game 115-128. I believe this game was in Pacerland again. So they only went to Madison Square Garden once this year. Did the Pacers. And both teams got to the line a lot once again, so maybe that's the thing that we look at. 26 times for the Pacers, 20 points made off of that. 23 times for the Knicks, 20 points made off of that. So both of these teams, if any indication is here is showing what's going to be done there, this is going to be some long games with these teams going to the line a hell of a lot of the time. So that could be a bit irritating, to be honest with you. We'll see how it pans out. But yeah, I like this series on paper because I think both of these teams have proven themselves to be 2 of the best conditioned teams in basketball, and I think that's what determined why they're still around. The final 4 teams of the playoffs right now are all teams that have great conditioned athletes up and down the roster. The Pacers are known for continuing to come at you. They had a fantastic offense last year that kind of carried over into this season. They did have the slow start, as we mentioned, but since turned themselves into an elite team defensively. Believe it or not, they're a top 10 defensive team to end the season. So the Pacers are one of those good old teams that have great offense, good defense, and that's why they're still around. Coupled with good depth, tenacious point of attack defenders like Andrew Nembhard, T.J. McConnell, Aaron Naismith. You got to deal with these people. Ben Mathurin, very underrated player at this point. Ben Mathurin, he could have a big series to reestablish his name if the minutes or opportunities show up for him. And then you got the ex-Knick, which is a big storyline. Obi Toppin coming back to New York. This should be fun. He was drafted there. I think his brother's still on the back of that bench somewhere developing. From New York. He is a real New York dude. So for that, this is interesting. You got the Tyrese Halliburton factor. Of course, we know, I don't think I mentioned this, but Tyrese Halliburton's jersey was worn by some guy in New York, and they beat the hell out of the dude in the middle of the street. It was a bunch of New York Knicks chasing this guy and throwing bags of trash at him and jumping him. Tyrese Halliburton, being the class act that he is going to fly this dude out for the first game of this series, or at some point in time in the series. I'm not sure who has home court, to be honest with you. I think New York does. But he's going to fly the guy out for game 3, I believe it is. So we'll see how that goes for the Pacers if he's able to watch his team get a victory there. So, yeah, man, this is a really, really historic rivalry, though. You talk about Reggie Miller and the New York Knicks versus Patrick Ewing and those guys. These two teams have hated each other for a million years, and I think it's going to be damn interesting to see how that rivalry carries forward today. Player that comes to mind immediately, 2 players on each side. One player, Josh Hart for the New York Knicks. Such a phenomenal rebounder from a guard position. A winning player. I'm not surprised to see him in a winning situation. I said that when the Lakers drafted him, that we got him out of college as a player who's ready to help somebody win at that point, I believe. And he's really turned into a fantastic player, man. I wish he was still on my squad. Definitely a fan of Josh Hart. And then on the Indy side, the guy that comes to mind is T.J. McConnell off the bench. I'm a huge fan of T.J. McConnell. Tenacious guy. Feisty dude. Helps you on both sides of the floor in multiple categories. High ceiling when he really gets into his bag with minutes. He can play like an all-star in a given game. I'm just a big fan of both of those players. I think they're going to be key for their teams to be successful. Another guy that comes to mind for the Indiana Pacers is Aaron Naismith. Physical dude, gets to the rim, gets to the line, tends to play pretty good defense from my understanding. Just an overall talented, physical, big dude. 6'6", 215 at the small forward position. He is going to be somebody who's going to have to play well in this series, and I expect that he will, to offset some of that energy that's coming at him from players that are just going to be a little better than him, and I think that's the point. Aaron Naismith is going to have to play at an extremely high level to offset the all-star level of Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart. Andrew Nembhard as well. They're gonna be a little outclassed in this series from a talent perspective, but bucket for bucket, play for play, I don't think they get outclassed too much at all, if I'm being honest with you. I think those guys are very much capable of elevating their game to be what they need to be to keep up with those type of people. And so that's what I'm curious to see, if that's going to be how that plays out. OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, man, they're such phenomenally gifted wings. Don't really have any holes in their game. OG's a bit more injury prone, to say the least, because Mikal Bridges don't miss any basketball games at all. But they're both so difficult to deal with. They both have a ceiling that goes way into the sky. OG has NBA championship experience, even though I always argued that he didn't have nothing to do with that championship because he was hurt. But when it really came down to it, the Knicks just put together so much star power around Jalen Brunson. And that's what I see there is significant star power. However, the Pacers are a team that has extreme continuity with a guy like Tyrese Halliburton that moves the ball constantly, making sure everybody's involved all the time. His three-point ability, which is, kind of streaky, but star-level streaky. And because of it, you're going to see guys on his side consistently contribute to the scoring, and it makes for an extremely talented scoring team. And they have been for the past couple of years. So that's not going to change this season in these playoffs at all. I most definitely believe that the Indiana Pacers' ceiling to score is just as high as New York. And the records tell you that as well. The New York Knicks ended the season 51-31. Indiana Pacers ended the season 50-32. These two teams are neck and neck. And they both are relentless, play with a lot of energy. As I said, high-conditioned teams. This is going to be a fun sprint to watch. They're going to be sprinting back and forth, wearing each other down, and they're both wired and built for that. So this is what makes this an excellent series. Along with all the attributes these players bring to the table, you're just going to see a lot of energy on both sides, man, constantly. So I got my internet to work, and I was kind of filibustering while my phone was buffering, but we are back. I'm going to tell y'all the truth, man. I just think that the New York Knicks have proven themselves to be a phenomenally gifted two-way basketball team all season long. The Pacers have done the same thing, and I just think at this point it's about taking two teams that have similar attributes, one with the big huge market, the other with the little market off in the middle of nowhere, and just having those two teams stylistically just impose their will upon one another and let the chips fall. I don't think there is much of a separation between these two teams at all. When I look at the star power of Pascal Siakam versus the star power of, say, Karl Towns, I don't see too much of a separation. I think they're both neck and neck. I think that Karl probably, you would think, is more of a cachet player, but Pascal can score just as much as Karl. Pascal's won an NBA championship. I think that's also a storyline to behold here. OG Anunoby versus Pascal Siakam, those two ex-players from the Toronto Raptors championship situation, going up against one another in a situation like this. I think that could be a pretty cool storyline with those two starters on both teams. And then you got Jalen Brunson versus Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton at his best is an MVP candidate. We've seen that before he went down with the injury last year. He's back to playing like that person right now, just in time for the playoffs. Jalen Brunson, I think, is arguably the best closer since Kobe Bryant. Literally. I can't think of a player since Kobe that I trust more down the stretch of the fourth quarter of a basketball game. The numbers back that up. The eye test back that up. He's just simply the most clutch basketball player in basketball today. Sorry, Bron. Sorry, great players. We talking about in the fourth quarter, who am I getting the ball to get a bucket? I'm going JB right now. And so for me, that tells a lot of what I think is going to happen as well. You just got to see which of those very different but extremely high-level guards is going to impose his will in his way. And do not underestimate Tyrese Halliburton's clutch ability as well, especially with that awkward three-point shot that he could shoot from a mile away. He could string that thing together 5 in a row. You look up and you're down by 15 off the strength of his three-point shot. Another player that I'm paying very close attention to is Miles Turner. Second year in a row, he's in the Eastern Conference Finals. He's been in the league for now, playing for the Pacers all his career, probably like 11, 12 years. He's up for a contract, if I'm not mistaken, very soon. From what I understand, those who know what the Pacers are really doing have been saying he's been playing phenomenal defense all year long, all playoffs long, rather. Throughout the course of these playoffs, he has been playing phenomenally, doing the rim protector thing. He's going to be an extremely important piece for the Indiana Pacers. They provide themselves a lot of length between him and Pascal Siakam, who are both basically 6'10", 7 feet guys. This is going to be an interesting matchup versus Karl Towns and, of course, Mitchell Robinson, who has been healthy in this postseason and has really reestablished himself as one of the good rim protectors in this league. Mitchell Robinson, in my opinion, playing at the level that he's been playing at, has inserted something different into the Knicks lineup that maybe many are not taking into account when considering who the Knicks are. I didn't, because I wasn't really sure what he was going to give them. But since the playoffs have started, he has been a phenomenal rim protector and a phenomenal source of rebounding as well. So now you got to take into account just the size that the Knicks are bringing to the table when you talk about them 2 7-foot centers. And then those guys that they got running around with them that are lengthy and defensive floor spacers. I think of a guy like Miles McBride, who's been playing very well as well. Good point of attack defender from what I've seen. Also could stretch the floor some. Very, very energetic. He and Nembhard are going to go at it. He and Naismith, he's in that category of this type of series. He's going to have to give you a lot of that if you're the New York Knicks. Coming off the bench, giving OG a spell, giving Mikal a spell. He's going to be very important. He's going to have to play at a high level. And he's going to have to deal with the tenacious nature of the players that are coming at him. You know, TJ McConnell, they're going to give him hell, man. Every time we go up against the Pacers, I always tell people, man, TJ McConnell is a guy, and I've already mentioned this in this video, who has a really high ceiling, who lives for these moments, man. He lives for these moments. And because he's on a kind of just a role where he's kind of just a guy, he can really catch you off guard, man. You'll find yourself thinking you're up big. He comes into the game, all of a sudden he cuts a 14-point lead to 7 with a couple passes and a couple shots. You just have to, gets to the line, draws a key foul where a guy's got 3 fouls. You know, at halftime, you leave him on the floor accidentally. TJ McConnell's the guy who's going to draw that 4th foul and put him in foul trouble for the rest of the game. He's that type of dude. You have to account for him. He could be the difference. He could be the difference. He will make himself the difference if you allow him to be. You have to take him into account if you're the New York Knicks. So these are the type of things that I think are extremely important, man. Coaching is big in this one. You're talking about Carlisle versus Thibodeau. Guys who've been around the block. Carlisle's won a championship. Thibodeau, if I'm not mistaken, is a defensive coach, won a championship with the Celtics. So we know what type of time it is with the coaching. Both of these guys are decorated. Neither one of these teams won a championship. No, the Pacers have never won an NBA championship, you guys. Never. They've been to the finals against the Lakers in 2000. We took care of that. But, like, they've never won a championship, so this would be huge for them to get back to the finals for the first time in 25 years. The New York Knicks haven't won a championship since 1973. So you're talking about two teams that are just dying. Their fan bases are absolutely dying for an opportunity to see Larry O'Brien in their situation. And this is the first time where they can legitimately say that they both have a chance. I don't know how great that chance is, given the fact that the Western Conference teams over there are going to be in that same boat. But they all have a chance to get a championship for their situation. We know how bad New York has wanted this. Guys like Stephen A. Smith and Spike Lee, and we know how much this would mean to them to get back to the finals. I don't believe the Knicks have been to the finals since 1999, I believe it was, against the San Antonio Spurs, the lockout year. I remember that very, very poignantly because I was watching that like a hawk because I really liked the Knicks at the time. But this is one of those situations where both of these teams, would, you know, having been there in over 25 years, would absolutely love to win this series. So it's easy, in my opinion, to root for either team and just be comfortable with that as a neutral party because it's new blood, man. New blood on all 4 corners of the situation. This is one of my favorite NBA playoffs of all time because of it. As a Laker fan, that's probably rich coming from me because we got more championships than everybody else. I don't care about the Celtics. Don't even ask me about it. But as it pertains to just, okay, we're not involved. What do I want to see? I want to see this. I want to see this. So shout out to all these teams that are in the playoffs. Happy to see you there. Yeah, man. So as I look at this thing, my phone is not cut back on to give me the stats. But like I said, them stats weren't helping. Them games too early. These two teams basically had a clean slate. Tomorrow, I believe the game is at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, I believe it is. But do your homework on that because I'm not really sure if I got that right. But I believe the game is at 5 Pacific. In New York, I believe the New York Knicks have the home court advantage there with the better record. Slightly better record. And so that's going to mean there's going to be star power in the Garden. You expect everybody and their grandma to be there. I think the Pacers will probably have a nice following, but the energy will definitely be pro-New York, no question about that. The Pacers need to get the split. One thing I mentioned in my video that I uploaded, should be uploading now or finished uploading, that I made yesterday, was that the New York Knicks, and listening to people talk about the Knicks, is they have a hot and cold kind of personality. Some days they're really energetic, coming at you. Other days they're laissez-faire, not really taking things seriously. they don't have the privilege of having that mentality against this particular team. The Pacers tend to be one-track minded. We are going to get a bucket. We're going, score. We're up by 30, we're down by 30, up by 1, down by 1. We are going. And so that mentality identity, if that holds up, I think that leans into the Pacers having the ability to upset the team with the home court advantage here. Because they're so relentless, no lead is safe. They are like the Terminator coming at you no matter what. They're like running water, it's coming no matter what. And so that's why I tend to lean toward Pacers, even though home court advantage makes me feel a little uncomfortable about even saying that. But and just the overall star power of the New York Knicks, which has been just stellar, really, what they put together. From position to position, they just have high quality in every single position in the starting lineup, and they only place so many players on their team, so that you're going to see most of that on the floor at any given moment in the series. I think that also works against the Knicks to a degree. I thought it would hurt the Knicks more than it did against Detroit, but Detroit, the Knicks had some stuff go in their favor with the referees, which could very much also play into this series, y'all. It's just the idea that the New York Knicks are the second biggest market in the NBA, and the other three markets available in these playoffs are likely in the 20 range. The NBA probably having so many conspiracies going around about their way of addressing the ratings issue, probably going to want the New York Knicks to win this series. I'm nervous if I'm a Pacer fan based on that dynamic in my play, in my face. Because it's going to be a small market going to the finals from the Western Conference, period. So, unless they want Minnesota Pacers or OKC Pacers, they're probably going to try to shoe in the New York Knicks no matter what. And that, I think, may actually be what happens here, if I'm being honest with you. And I hate to think that, man, because I really think the Pacers have every chance, every shot, especially with their relentless play, to win this series. Pacers been knocking people off who've been a little injured, to be honest with you. Got to put an asterisk next to the path of the Pacers thus far, because, of course, they ran into a Cleveland team that was missing a good portion of their starting lineup in the first half of that series. I blame some of that on Cleveland. I think some of the dudes thought they could just run past Indy and took them for granted. And, of course, the Dame injury in the Bucks series. I thought Indy was going to win the series anyway, but that really did kind of tell the story. That series went exactly the way I thought it would, by the way, if anybody cares to go back and look at the video I made going into that series. I said if the Bucks play Dame and give him all of the opportunities that they would give him as if he were healthy, it's going to cost him the series, and it did. It did, just like I said it would. My prediction was spot on with that series based on that positioning and how that went. But that's Doc Rivers for you. Nevertheless, the Indiana Pacers took care of business, ran them up out of here, went into Cleveland and then shocked the world there. And now they run into a healthy Knicks team. And I could argue, if I'm being consistent, that doesn't really bode well for the Indiana Pacers, because I'm of the mindset that being tested coming into an Eastern Conference Finals is probably more important than being rested or ultimately having an easy path. Having that easy path, you're only going to beat you beat who's in front of you, so you get your kudos. But at the end of the day, what difficulty level have you been playing on is something that I often say. And the difficulty level that the Pacers have been playing on, based on those teams being injured, key players, is not as high as the New York Knicks, who started the season with a healthy Celtics team, ran them up out of here. Jason Tatum got hurt near the end of the series, and ultimately they were able to close it out. And, of course, the New York Knicks played against a very strong and healthy Detroit Pistons team with a lot of depth that I thought they weren't going to win the series, and ultimately they did in 6. So I think that you could say the New York Knicks are a little more tested, though both teams have had some help in the injury areas, to say the least. So, yeah, I think that edge goes to the New York Knicks. But the Indiana Pacers, at the end of the day, they've played with such tenacity. They have been relentless in running, walking teams down, running and gunning. They've improved dramatically defensively, as we've already mentioned. And I just think if the referees get out the way, I think the Pacers have every opportunity to win the series. If the referees have their way, I think the New York Knicks are shooting to win this series. Shoe in. It's just an absolute shoe, and that's the problem. What Is the NBA going to get in the way to make sure the Knicks get in the finals? And I think the answer is probably. Probably. In Adam Silver's NBA, probably. We just saw some things that made us think that that's even more reinforced after watching the lottery and look at what happened with the Lakers getting Luka. Yeah, you probably think he ain't no way in hell he wants an Indiana Pacers versus OKC NBA Finals. He don't want that. They don't want that. They don't. They don't think we'll watch it. Even though, if I'm being honest with you, I plan on watching every game of that series. But that's just me. I'm going to watch every game of the Knicks series too. And that's what they know. So, I think the Indiana Pacers are a good bet to get railroaded. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think the Pacers are a good bet to get railroaded, man. I hope I'm wrong, because I would love to see a situation where the Pacers have another chance to get in the NBA Finals. Last time they were in the finals, of course, they were going against Shaq and Kobe, so it wasn't no issue with ratings in. But this is a different era. The NBA's had a lot of ratings issues, and I think this could potentially be less about X's and O's and more about those dudes wearing them gray shirts and them black pants running back and forth. I really, really, genuinely think that's probably going to be the determining factor. So, yeah, man, from a matchup standpoint, I also think that the New York Knicks provides a little more star power from moment to moment, but I think the New York Knicks are much more incumbent upon those players staying healthy. Carl roll an ankle, this could go the Pacers' way. OG gets hurt, which he's prone to do, this could go the Pacers' way. If Josh Hart and that knee flares up, even though he's been able to, withstand the issue with that knee, he's had an issue with one of his knees all season long, pretty much. He's just been playing through it. Josh Hart's tough, but if they don't have him out there, I don't know if this works out for them. And then it just comes down to Jalen Brunson, of course, who is a great closer, man. He's a great closer, and he's a damn good bet to get to the line a million times. So that's something that I'm also considering, He's going to have games. He's going to have some big games in the series. Against these Pacer guards, they have some really good cards, but none of them can guard him. That's a fact. So I expect for him to have some 47-point games, 36-point games, 15 points in the fourth quarter. I expect that type of stuff. And as I said in this first series against the Detroit Pistons, he was a good bet to find his rhythm in that series because he had come back from the ankle injury that he hurt actually against the Lakers right before the Luka trade. I think it was in that same game where he had a high ankle sprain, came down awkwardly, and was messed up all the way up into the first round of these playoffs. But since has gotten himself back to form and now looks like himself for sure. So his health obviously, teeters on the success of what you would expect there. Because if he ain't out there, I definitely think the Pacers win the series for sure. Karl Towns had a big series against against the Pacers in the regular season. One of those games he went for 40 points. I don't know if my phone will let me see that now, but I have some Wi-Fi issues in the building. But that's something that needs to be said. That Karl Towns is having a big series against these Pacers. And so if that is something that is any indication of what's to be in front of us, then you can be damn sure that Karl Towns is going to have a big series here. Nope, my phone is still acting up. So, yeah, that's a thing. But, the way that the Indiana Pacers have been playing defenses of late, how long ago that game was, I just don't think it really told much of a story as it pertains to what we expect to see coming into this series. So, yeah, man, that's really where my head is, man. I just think that, Ben Matherin's another guy I think is pretty important. I don't know how much run he's been getting in the playoffs. He's kind of gotten, I think, pushed a little further back in the bench than maybe what we would expect. I don't know if he's going to be a Pacer for much longer, given the fact that I think his cachet is potentially much higher than what he's now being asked to be for the Pacers. But his presence providing high ceiling, small forward shooting guard play, he's a guy who can go for 35 points. I don't know what he does defensively. I'm ignorant in that regard. But when I think about what he can bring to the table, I would not be surprised at all if he has a breakout game. If there's a Ben Matherin game in this series, it wouldn't shock me at all. Because he is not, based on what he was drafted to be and based on what he was when he was healthy, each and every time he was healthy, this is a guy who should be a starter in this league. Maybe injuries kind of stolen a little of that luster from him, but he was drafted 3 years ago? He's not that far into his career. Ben Matherin is somebody who is expected to be a starter a good portion of the time going forward. And I think there's going to be a Ben Mathurin game. It's going to be a big Ben Mathurin game for sure. So, yeah, Pascal Siakam, huge component in this situation for the Indiana Pacers. If he's having a fantastic series, obviously you love the Pacers' chances. Tyrese Halliburton getting people involved. I predicted that Tyrese Halliburton was going to have literally a 4-point game in the last series, and it actually happened. And those who watched the preview game, the preview prediction series of the Celtics and the Pacers will remember me saying, yo, he's going to literally have a 4-point game. It can be expected. And I thought that people would laugh at that, but I was so serious because of how his game is set up to make the ball move. His 3-point shot can tend to go cold, and if he doesn't hit that 3-point shot, there are going to be times where he don't do anything else scoring the ball. And that's kind of what we saw there. That's exactly what we saw there. So I would expect that there would be another one of those coming up in this series as well. And so just kind of prepare for the hot and cold scoring output of Tyrese Halliburton, and just understand that if he doesn't get the help from the Mathurins and the other players on the team that are scoring the ball, it could be a nightmare for them. The Pacers, they really need his scoring to come around. And he won't turn the ball over, which is a good thing for his team, but I do think they have some tenacity type wings on the Knicks that could potentially snap him out of that a little bit. You talk about OG Anunoby and Miles McBride and, of course, Mikal Bridges. I would imagine they're going to try to force him into some turnovers, but he's so gifted in that way that I think that there's a world where he doesn't turn the ball over much continuing into the series, which is another reason why the Pacers are where they are, because they really take care of the basketball. So this is great. I'm not going to lie. I really love this series, man. I love the fact that Cleveland and Boston are not here, because everybody thought they were going to be here. They were just a shoe-in to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think that series would have been bad or anything, but I prefer to see two teams that I didn't expect to be here, who haven't been in the championship in a long time, having an opportunity to duke it out with previous series in the past where these two teams fought tooth and nail for opportunities. And this is really what it's all about. This is what Eastern Conference basketball should be truly about. Teams like this coming in with two-way teams ready to take each other's head off at a high-paced situation. I think pace is important. When we talk about the Pacers, no pun intended, they are a pace-keeping team. If you could slow the game down under what the Pacers would prefer, I think you have yourself a better chance of beating the Pacers. But if you try to run with them, most teams would have trouble with that. The Knicks, ironically enough, might not be that team, because they are also a high-paced team, runs all day, high-conditioned athletes, also extremely energetic as a unit when they're playing like they're supposed to be playing. And so that is why I love this matchup as well. So, yeah, man, sorry my Wi-Fi went out. I can't look at the numbers like I'd like to, or look at the rosters the way I want to. But there are so many key components on both sides. Obi Toppin and his ex-New York history and all of that. They traded him away for 2 second-round picks. I still think it's a ridiculous trade there that the Knicks did. And Obi's a key component for the Pacers, man. You talk about a player who ceiling can go up for like 30 points. He's also a guy who could just park it from behind the arc and just tag you. You know what I mean? I've recently compared him to Naz Reid with more bounce in the Eastern Conference. He is just a high level player coming off their bench, just like Ben Mathurin. And I think that's a dangerous thing when you talk about a New York Knicks team who, at a given moment, will have the same 9 players in rotation no matter what, because of how their coach likes to do things. But if for some reason some of them guys go down, now you start saying, okay, what's on that Knicks bench? And it could be kind of cool, you know, looking at guys like Precious Achiuwa getting opportunities. Cam Payne is a guy who's been here before, been to the finals with the Phoenix Suns, and I think he also was in the finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers as well. I'm not really sure about that though, but you know, it's guys who've been around a little bit. The New York Knicks do have some. They're not a bad bench, but you just don't think you'll see as high a level from them as you're going to see from the T.J. McConnells, the Obi Toppins, Ben Mathurin if he's off the bench, or if they bring in Nembhard off the bench, however that works. You expect that the Pacers have a more capable bench in this series. and I think that could be potentially dangerous. Jarris Walker, still a lottery pick from a couple years ago. Who knows if Jarris Walker doesn't find a way to make a name for himself if he gets an opportunity in these playoffs going forward. That's another player you got to be very careful with. Lottery picks that were drafted 2 years ago that haven't gotten opportunities. Put them on the floor, all of a sudden, boom, there's the Jarris Walker breakout. Like, that's totally possible. Totally possible, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas Bryant is another guy I like to mention this thing, man. He might get some minutes out there against the centers of the New York Knicks. He provides certain respectful length that the Pacers can throw out there. So definitely shout out to Thomas Bryant, ex-Laker. Love to see him get his first ring. You know what I'm saying? These are the type of things that just come to mind, man. Johnny Furphy, another nice player that came out of the draft last year. Probably get in some garbage time minutes when they're up by or down by 30. I think he's going to have a future in this league, so he'll get some experience in the playoffs this year. So yeah, man, this is great, man. I want to see this matchup. I want Adam Silver to understand, this fan has no problem watching small markets, especially teams that we haven't seen on NBC and on the CBS or whatever, TNT. I want to see those teams play for something. This is the NBA 2K era. I grew up a video game baby. I would have times where I would have my player playing for one of these teams in a matchup like this in the playoffs, and I would say to myself, this is something I'm never going to see. I ain't never going to see the Thunder versus Minnesota. I ain't going to see the Pacers and the Knicks. It's real now, and we like it. We like it. I'm a Laker fan. I always want to see my team win the championship every year. But if I'm not there, I don't want to see Golden State versus Cleveland for 5 straight years in the final. I don't want to see that. The pace, the teams that are there all the time, I'm trying to say, I don't need to see them all the time anymore. I know it's safer for you because you're trying to capture all these fans that only going to watch if they've heard of a guy on the floor. But I think it comes down to you being willing to market these teams. That will determine the urgency of the fan or the casual fan. You let us know who Ant-Man is. You let us know who Jalen Brunson is, and then we'll have some urgency about watching them. Don't wait for us to tell you that we want to see these people. Tell us who they are, then we'll want to see these people. And I think that's basically what the NBA is going to find out. Fans are going to love Ant-Man versus Shea. Fans are going to love Tyrese Halliburton versus Jalen Brunson. Because it's going to be good ball. You see what I'm saying? I don't need to see Steph Curry versus LeBron James every year. I really don't. Not going forward. So that's pretty much what it is, man. I did a much better job of breaking down the Western Conference series just because I'm a Western Conference fan. I know those teams better. And I had my phone. So this is a little more thorough with that one. But at the end of the day, I'm extremely excited about this series. In fact, I think I'm a little more excited about this series because I did grow up kind of a Knicks supporter. I don't have any allegiances with the Knicks, but Laker fan who liked the Knicks as a child. So for me, it's fun. I'm not as much of a Knicks fan today. I totally wouldn't be upset to see the Pacers win the series, to be honest with you. I don't really care. But this is one of those situations where I remember watching the Knicks as a child versus the Pacers, and I enjoyed those matchups a lot. And so it's good to see these teams back at it again. And yeah, man, that's really what I gotta say, man. I think this is gonna be a good series. From a prediction standpoint, I'm gonna say Knicks in 6. Because I think the NBA is going to do exactly what I hope they don't, which is rig this series to a degree or send the Knicks to the line a lot more than the Pacers or something like that. If that doesn't happen, I think the Pacers have a great shot of winning the series. I think the Pacers can win the series in 7. Just the same, if the refs don't get in the way. But I do expect the refs to get in the way. I do expect Jalen Brunson to close them out based on that. Get to the line for every damn thing. You ain't going to be able to breathe on Jalen Brunson without hearing a whistle. And I just think that's probably going to be the difference. It ain't going to be X's and O's. It's going to be the NBA's interest in making damn sure that people are actually watching the finals. So that's what I'm going to say. Knicks in 6. And I'll be happy either way, man. I'm just glad we got some new teams out there. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Knicks in 6. BDF 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.